do the albums and then we'll get into, hey, blah, blah, blah. So do that today's show. Okay then.
Hi.
Oh.
Today's albums are David Bowie, Hunky Dory, Barbra Streisand, Wet, and the Powder Blues Band, Uncut.
Give your little facial expressions after everyone.
I did for the first one. And welcome to episode 19 of Reviews from the Crawl Space.
Bingo. Take two. Yeah, that's a good one. We'll keep this. Okay, no messing around.
Okay, this one might be a long one today because of David Bowie.
Mm-hmm.
I have 4 pages of notes here on this album. So, which is probably one of the most amount that I've had for any of our reviews. Aside from maybe Led Zeppelin.
I was going to say, we say that for every one of them. So.
No, not everybody gets 4 pages.
No, that's true. Yeah.
So, David Robert Jones, or David Bowie, was an English singer-songwriter and actor. He's considered one of the most influential musicians of the 20th century. His career was marked by reinvention and visual presentation and significantly influenced popular music. Mm-hmm. He sold an estimated 140 million albums
no doubt.
Worldwide, making him one of the world's best-selling artists. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1996. Hunky Dory was his 4th studio album released by... his 4th studio album, his first with RCA Records, and it was released in 1971. His Wikipedia page is monstrous. It's like rabbit holes of rabbit holes. If you went in one side, you will come out in China and back up to Canada again.
Lots of threads to pull.
Yeah, it's just incredibly interesting.
We need to focus up, so it's just this, because like you said, it's so easy to get lost.
I know. I'm just telling this to viewers, so if they're lacking David Bowie information and they want more, Wikipedia is a good place to start. So this album received critical acclaim and is regarded as one of Bowie's best works. In fact, a quote from one of the reviews of this album spoke to it very highly. A kaleidoscope array of pop styles tied together only by Bowie's sense of vision. A sweeping cinematic melange of high and low art, ambiguous sexuality, kitsch, and class. Yeah. And that about sums it up in a nutshell. Mm-hmm. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Time magazine chose this album as part of its 100 best albums of all times. Okay, so track listing. Side 1. I've decided to call it track listing now instead of song list.
Yeah, track list is...
Track listing is more appropriate.
Yeah, track list is good.
So, number 1 is Changes. Who hasn't heard Changes? Number 2 is Oh You Pretty Things. Number 3 is 8-Line Poem. Number 4 is Life on Mars. Number 5 is Kooks. Number 6 is Quicksand. Side 2, number 7 is Fill Your Heart. Andy Warhol. Song for Bob Dylan. Queen Bitch, and the Boulay Brothers. Now, out of these 11 songs that were on this album, quite frankly, I have only heard of 2 of them.
No, you just listing off 3. You know 3. You knew Changes at least, Life on Mars, and Queen Bitch at the very least.
Okay, so 3. Oh. 3 out of the 11. Mm-hmm. The rest I didn't know.
And some of you, like you flat out haven't heard before.
Yeah, like on side 1, 4 of the 6. I had never heard before.
Okay.
So, this was a real treat for me. I've always been a David Bowie fan, and there are albums in his collection that I have listened to front to back. Mm-hmm. This is not one of them. I wasn't into him in 1971.
No?
No, I didn't get into him till later on, and have gone back and listened to some, like I said, some of his works. But Yeah.
For me, this album contains two of probably my most favorite Bowie songs, but it isn't my most favorite Bowie album. To be fair, I don't think I've ever... Life on Mars and Queen Bitch, I fucking love those songs. Great songs, and, you know, movies, pop culture. I also like the Portuguese version, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah. And that's from...
Life Aquatic.
The Life Aquatic, Steve Zissou.
Yeah. For me, for the first side, like... it's something that I never really thought of, because I don't think I've ever listened to the album as a whole, but that first side is pretty kicking. Like, Changes, which is super poppy and straightforward, and Oh You Pretty Things. Like, the song title I wouldn't have recognized, but I definitely know that song. It's like, they're all really good songs. The whole album, this whole side was really good, and it's just... It's so weird, because I want to get into it. So, like, because of the next, I know we're talking about this one side, and it's just you're talking about how he masters the styles. So just as a bit of a reference, a year later he would go on to do his Ziggy Stardust persona stuff. So, like, we're going into like a super concept album, but even on this album here, the changes that he does in terms of, like you said, styles, different genres and forms, it's fantastic. And one thing that I always love, and I know we're kind of getting into the whole thing here, is that even with these different songs, Changes, like I said, and the 8-line poem, is that no matter what's going on, is Bowie's voice is always the one that ties it together. It's always the centerpiece. It always drives everything. Yeah, Kooks was pretty good, and Quicksand, and you got something?
No, I'm just laughing at Kooks because Twitter yesterday, there was someone made a reference to the lyrics of that album, and it had something to do with homework and his son, Duncan Jones, who is on Twitter, and he makes movies.
Yeah, director.
Some very good movies. He was talking about how the song was anti-homework, and Duncan Jones piped up and said that he had to do his homework every day no matter what. So, you know, my dad may have said this in a song, but in real life it wasn't the way it was. So I just thought it was so funny because we had just listened to it,
and then
I had never heard of Kooks before.
Yeah.
And then here it is, like 2 days later, it's being referenced
with
with a
kid.
comeback from his son. For Life on Mars, I wrote beside So Big and So Small. To me, that song was so big but so small. Like, that's the only way that I could explain it.
It is
that there were big parts and small parts, and I found that as a common theme throughout this album.
It's almost like the version from Life Aquatic almost kind of sums it up, because really it's just like you can just listen to it with just Bowie, maybe a guitar or just a piano. It could be really stripped down, but like you said, the song is much more than that when you listen to it. There's a lot of layers going on.
Yes, definitely, yes. Yeah, there is.
Big and small songs.
It's very well arranged.
Yeah.
Kooks, I love the arrangement of the song.
Mm-hmm.
I've listed off the songs already, but I have a little note here for side 2, Fill Your Heart.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually written by Biff Rose, who's a comedian and singer-songwriter, and Paul Williams, of all people.
Oh, really?
Paul Williams is very famous for a lot of movie soundtracks and Phantom of the Opera and, you know, just different things like that.
Yeah.
Or is it Phantom of the Opera? Phantom of the... something or other, I can't remember what it is, but that's the only non-Bowie song on this whole album. And
it's not another one of these, you know, oh, look, it's these big highfalutin guys. Oh, but it's a cover album. This is all real original Bowie shit.
Yeah, with the exception of that song.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he put it on there for comic effect, because it is kind of a quirky little song, and it just kind of fits into the theme that it's kitschy.
Same as the side 1. I'm the same thing I'm going to say is that no matter the different style, country, blues, pop, like whatever, it doesn't matter. Bowie's voice is always the center, and it's always like the center peg that everything else is around. And no matter what's going on,
his voice is different than a lot of.
Him and the piano together, particularly.
Oh, I love the piano bits on this album. Just love them.
Yeah.
Little tinkle, tinkle, tinkles everywhere, and I really, really love the arrangements.
And I feel the same way for the second side.
So Andy Warhol, that song, it had a really cool start, kind of electronic sounds, and then it just faded to some studio chatter. And then it went to Spanish guitar. It was simple, like, It was a stripped down song of this, again, a big small sound on this album. A song for Bob Dylan. It's a parody of Bob Dylan's 1962 homage to Woody Guthrie, Song to Woody. Bowie refers to Bob Dylan by his birth name, Robert Zimmerman, in this song, and describes his voice like sand and glue, which that describes Dylan. Queen Bitch, we cranked this one. I was afraid the neighbors were going to come up and knock on the door, but it's a tribute to Velvet Underground and especially Lou Reed. And then this one, I loved the last song on this album. It was a really nice, slow fitting end to this album, and it's called The Boulay Brothers. It's a ballad, and it has been described as probably Bowie's densest and most impenetrable songs. Classic Bowie, beautiful lyrics, great musicianship, and just as kind of a side note of interest, Bowie named his publishing company Boulay Brothers Music, and he used the pseudonym for himself and Iggy Pop and Colin Thurston as producers of Iggy Pop's 1977 album, Lust for Life. So if you look, they will be the Boulay Brothers.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great song too.
So a lot of the songs on this album for me reminded me of big Broadway songs.
Theatrical a little bit, for sure.
Very theatrical.
When wasn't Bowie, like, I was just, sorry to interrupt you, it's just like talking about the next album with Ziggy Stardust, and that was essentially a stage production.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's his change to his new persona, right?
Yeah.
And I could almost see production visuals as I listened to this, and quite frankly, it's the only album that I have ever listened to that tweaked my imagination in such a way of all the things that it could be visually, and that's just brilliant to me.
It's one of the reasons I love Bowie. Yeah, that's why we're worse off without him.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And just a note, Deadpool thinks he's still alive.
At least we still got Bowie.
At least we still got Bowie.
I guess I want to say that before we move on to the producer and get to the thing and do the rest of it, is that often a lot of musicians, especially now as we're all getting older, or kick off, and Bowie for me is one that it's sad that some of these people go, but whatever. Bowie's still the one that makes me sad.
Yeah. Bowie
still stings a little bit, just because his music's always been there. It's been hugely influential in probably both of our lives, especially for me For me, I always loved Bowie from the beginning. So, and like being in movies and television, like he's always evolved. He's a creature of evolution or a trendsetter. Wasn't even following it. He's setting trends. He's changing personas, fashion, music, video, movies. Like it's fucking crazy. And yeah, we're worse off without him.
Well, and the contribution that he made to the world of music before he died.
Yeah, even then
makes it even sadder because it was some of his best stuff, and. Yeah, it's just sad.
Now that we're on a down note, who produced it?
A fellow by the name of Ken Scott. He's a British record producer and engineer. And he's known for being one of the 5 main engineers for the Beatles over the years. He also did Elton John, Supertramp, Pink Floyd, Procol Harum, and the list just goes on. It's all these super bands out of the UK. And he did do a lot of work with Bowie. So, over to you.
Okay, so I'll just start off with, so interestingly enough, this is a reissue.
That's right, we talked about it.
Yeah, this was reissued, this is from 1980, so almost 10 years after it's a reissue. It's the first of that reissue, but it's a reissue, so it's not an original in that sense. There's no inner sleeve. This case, I mean, might not look bad on camera, but it's banged up, like the album's coming out through the bottom, and, the case is seen better days. Like it's just rotting from the bottom out. The vinyl's in really good condition. It needs to be cleaned a little bit, but it sounded fantastic when we were listening to it. I'll get to that in a sec. Oh no, smashed up. Okay, so sound quality. The first track was a little bit of popping and hissing because it looked like it was just dirty, not even scratches. Like the vinyl looks good.
And you cleaned this one before we played it, right?
I did, and it needs to be somebody out there who knows how to do it better than me, because the grooves look like they got a bit of schmutz in them or whatever. So But other than that, man, holy shit. We listened to some albums that got nothing going for it, and this is one of those ones. Like, it sounded great. First of all, the mix, but it had great bass, man. The bottom end on this thing, like you said, during Queen Bitch, this place was just shaking. It was crazy, but it sounded good.
Yeah. Like we complain a lot about albums having AM record
flattish,
radio
no
quality.
sound field. Yeah.
And this was not one of those. It was well arranged. It was.
You wouldn't need to do any EQ work with this one. This one's just throw it on there and it sounds great up loud.
Yeah.
Well done in that regard. So
I'd love to listen to this one with headphones.
I know, at least, I always complain about artists being on the cover, and highly stylized by a fellow named George Underwood. Now, I'm sure some people might actually know who George Underwood is. He's an artist and a musician, but since we're going to focus on just his artistry. So, turns out he was he's British, and he went to school with Bowie and he went to school with Bowie in Frampton, and they went to tech school or art school or whatever it is they call there.
Mm-hmm.
And Bowie just loved his work, so once Bowie got him to do this, he started doing other artists. So he's done stuff like T-Rex or Trex, depending on how you want to say it.
Another movie reference.
Mont the Hoople, Gentle Giant, hundreds of other projects, book covers, illustrations, CD
the work
covers.
that you showed me.
Yeah, actually,
was
painting's crazy.
beautiful.
Oh, yeah, I love his work.
Yeah.
So yeah, they met in school, and he did this, and actually I believe it was just before this album. George Underwood is actually responsible for Bowie's
Crazy
Eyes, dilated pupil. He punched Bowie in the face for taking his woman. When he punched him, he had this big, thick glass ring on it, and he popped him right in the eye. They stayed friends. In fact, he did all the artwork for Ziggy Stardust.
Huh.
Yeah. So there you go. So now you know, when you go and you see, you think about David Bowie's eye, it had nothing to do with like drugs or some crazy thing. He got punched in the eye for messing with somebody's woman as a kid. And then from there, it stuck.
I can totally see that.
It ended up being part of his image, right? So it's kind of interesting how that worked out.
Because he's got a magnetism about him. He's very cool and.
Well, it's also kind of like
somebody that you want.
He's not like a non-threatening dude. He's a skinny, lanky, kind of androgynous.
Androgynous, yes, yes.
Very safe.
And he's been on the record in. I think before Ziggy Stardust came out, he went on the record saying that he was gay.
Oh, I don't. Was he ever gay, or just
he said that he was gay?
Oh, crazy! Yeah.
Just before Ziggy Stardust came out, which you can't help but wonder whether that was a lead into, because that's everyone wondered once he came out as Ziggy Stardust whether he was
just part of the persona.
So it could have been just part of the persona.
I don't think it really matters with him.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah.
And it's funny too. Just a side note to all of this. It's amazing how many times. I can't wait to get it because we do have some Gentle Giant in here. It's funny how that band has cross-linked to other bands quite a bit in our travels already, just in terms of artists and things people have worked on their stuff.
Yeah,
it's quite interesting. So okay. So the last thing here, you.
Oh, me. The cost. The lowest in its lowest form. $10.32.
Yeah, if we're going for a full thing here, the case really, but the vinyl is fucking perfect. So
yeah, if we can only find a better case.
Yeah, that's exactly. If someone has a case out there, a great case, but needs a good vinyl,
magic wand.
Ooh.
Because wait till you hear what the highest
sorry,
is.
Continue.
Average is $32.89, and in its best or highest form, $116.10.
Yes, me, ding ding ding. We have
if
the highest. If
you want to buy a pristine
version
of this album, $116.10.
Damn. Well, I ain't no 116, but the vinyl, the vinyl will help. It's in good condition. So
that's it.
That's it for Bowie. We tried to streamline this one as much as possible. Like, oh my god, we could get into this one.
Yeah, there could be so much more.
Yeah, for me, it's one of those ones where I'd like to play on little snippets of songs so we can talk about it because there's so many different little parts.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So rating.
It's a must own. It's a collection.
Yeah.
If you have an album collection, you have to have this stuff in it. Honestly, it's funny, Like I said, I'd never listened to this album before as a solid, but I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
And it sets up Ziggy Stardust pretty well, actually. It's pretty great.
And who knows where it is in that collection?
It's like a master class or must have. So how about you?
Oh, collection. Yeah, I plan on listening to this over and over again.
Yeah, this is definitely...
with my headphones in.
Yep.
Just so that I can get every little nuance that he meant for the listener.
And you can crank it.
And I can crank it without the neighbors coming upstairs.
Reverse pounding.
Okay, Bowie out.
Bowie out.
This one you're not going to throw. Okay, our next album is Barbra Streisand, Wet. Can you see the eye roll?
Yeah, I just want to say, just Barbra Streisand, Wet. I don't like those words anywhere near each other. I don't like the connotations of what that could mean or what. It's just let's just get on with it.
So we have reviewed Barbra Streisand albums before. So I'll just kind of go quickly through again. She's an American singer-songwriter, actress, and filmmaker. Her career has spanned 6 decades. She's won Academy Awards, Grammys, Emmys, Daytime Emmys, Tonys, and Golden Globes. So just like Tracy Jordan, she has EGOTed.
You got it.
She's been given a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, a Grammy Legend Award, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So she's well decorated. I wonder if she keeps all her awards in the bathroom.
Which one? Which bathroom?
Oh, this is true. Maybe the one all the guests go into so they can get jealous. Wet was released in 1979. It's her 23rd studio album. Context for this would be that it was released after A Star Is Born and the album Superman, which I owned.
No doubt.
Both of them, actually.
Yeah.
It's a concept album. All songs refer to or express different interpretations of water.
And that's, I love concept albums. You know me. I don't think this is a concept that needs to be explored.
Not by Barbra Streisand, anyways.
No.
So I don't know what more I can say about her. She's a legend, and
you either like her or you don't. For me, South Park has covered exactly what I think of her. Exactly.
Okay, then I have to say that I like her. I like her more than I dislike her.
If you've owned her albums and you've cried to her stuff, you like her.
Oh, probably on the Star Is Born,
Yeah. Okay.
Wet is the first and the last word sung on this album.
That's true.
Now, I remember hearing it the first one, but I don't remember hearing it the last. Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's proven.
That's true.
Track listing. The first on side A. The first song is called Wet.
Wet. It's wet.
2 is Come Rain or Come Shine. Number 3 is Splish Splash. On Rainy Afternoons, After the Rain, and No More Tears, Enough Is Enough, a duet with Donna Summer. Niagara, I Ain't Gonna Cry Tonight, and Kiss Me in the Rain. Now, a lot of these are covers.
Yeah, we're back to another cover album. I don't understand this about these these super successful artists back in the day. It's just covers. It's all just covers.
They always think they can do it better.
It's a fucking kid's song too. Splish Splash. Fuck you, man.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
It was gross.
It was pretty. It's a Bobby Darin reboot.
Ugh.
And all I have written here is ugh. It was not.
It's like, okay, that's what I say. Like, what are you gonna say? What are we gonna say about any of these songs? They're all covered, and it sounds like Barbra Streisand. If you hear Streisand, that's what that song's gonna sound like. There's nothing.
You are absolutely right.
She's just doing her, and their songs about being in a tub. And after seeing her, nip slip little boob in
Yentl?
Stars Born. Yentl. Hardcore porn. In Stars Born, I really don't want to associate her with any sort of sex at all. It makes me uncomfortable. The funny thing for me, and I was kind of bugging you about it, because on this one I knew why you bought this album. If you had this album,
I didn't have that album. No,
it would be because of the one song, the Donna Summer song.
No, I had A Star Is Born and Superman.
And after, okay, yeah.
And probably others, but I don't.
But I saw it when I saw
recall.
No More Tears. I laughed because
That to me is the bright spot on this album. It's original, and it's Donna Summer.
It is still Donna Summer. It's somebody else.
And it's a cool disco song.
It's somebody else, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd prefer Donna Summer's straight up version of that song compared to this one. But so it's just
this has always been a duet with
okay.
two of them.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And that for me was the bright spot on this album.
Yeah, I didn't write anything down for this album. Well, what can I have nothing to say. It's exactly what you think it is.
Okay, so I'll read you what I wrote down about it.
Yeah, please do.
I respect and love Barbra Streisand, but this album was just regurgitation of other people's music. Her version of Splish Splash was awful. I'll stick to her classics and stay away from albums like this. And again, the only bright spot was the duet with Donna Summer.
So like I said,
it was a nice disco romp.
It's nice disco romp. Yeah, well,
Back to days gone by. The producer, Gary Klein, he's an American songwriter and record producer. He's worked with Barbra Streisand, Glenn Campbell, Dolly Parton, Johnny Cash, Tanya Tucker, a lot of country people, which surprises me on an album that's mostly just regular standards from back in the day. And the list of people that he's worked with is just like as long as my arm. So
yes, the way it goes. On to me, I guess.
Yep.
Of course, the shittier the album, our theory is the better condition it is in. And this is in pretty good condition.
And we even had a discussion about this one as to whether or not it was in his mom and dad's original collection.
I don't think so.
And we think it was from the box that our friend gave us.
It was from the Outsiders.
That he had laying around
in
his crawl space.
It's in good condition. The vinyl's in good condition. The inside sleeve's in good condition. Nothing's ripped or scratched. Like it's almost like someone listened to it once and put it away.
There's no names written all over it?
No names, no Nancy on this one. But it is funny, though, because we were talking about it, and I don't know if you can see it on there, but there's like, somebody had written on here, had a paper and doodled, so you can see all the doodle imprints on here, so I thought it was kind of funny. But so that's...
Probably doodled on it while they were listening to it.
So it's original, 79. Cover's in good condition. Sleeve is in good condition. Vinyl's in great condition. So, photography, Mario Caselli, I think I'm saying that right, Mario Caselli. Now, this is one of those ones where, you have people who've done tons and tons of work, It's funny, because before I get into it, I look at this stuff, and I think, honestly, a fucking chimp with a camera can do this stuff. It's serious. It's almost, as a photographer sometimes, it's almost a huge turnoff to see these people, like to see photos that are just so fucking basic that anybody could take with a cell phone now. And anyways, this guy who did this, Mario, he was born in Cleveland. He died in 2002. Born in Cleveland. He worked for Playboy from 62 to 81.
That explains it.
62 to 81.
He's used to taking soft lens.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And he also created the whole look for the 80s. That soft, like airbrushed, and then almost like
airbrushed.
Yeah, like Miami Vice. He created that.
Yeah.
He created that whole look and this
the pastels and those socks.
And it's super soft.
Yeah.
And so he created that look, and he's done a bunch of work for so besides Playboy, he has worked to find the 80s, Ethel Azima, I've never heard of her. This one, George Benson, Donna Summer, did stuff for the cover for Staying Alive, Kenny Rogers. There's way more than that. He's done a lot of stuff, and he actually, at one point, he opened his own studio and taught his own course for photography and stuff. So, it's amazing to me because I'm sitting there.
Put some Vaseline on your lens.
Yeah, totally. And I'm thinking, fuck, whatever. I could. So, anyways, he's well known. Like, he sets standards for a whole entire style that's still used to this day, and he's photographed a lot of people, famous people. So there's a second artist on here, Ginger. Oh man, I gotta do a better job of I gotta rearrange my work.
You can't read your own writing?
No, no. The way I lay out my data is different because I do all my shit, my song stuff at the end. So I kind of have to flip back and forth. Yeah. So it's the person who did the inner sleeve collar. So I better whip this out too. Is Ginger Canzaroni? Canzari? Ginger Ginger, good old Ginger. Everybody remembers Ginger. Okay, now she did this. So he did the photos, and she did like the colorization just on the sleeves, like that.
Lame.
Hey, man, I agree. So, anyways,
She looks like a hooker in that photo.
That's like kind of the.
Oh, they have your eye makeup in the.
So that's Ginger's work. So thank Ginger for that. And
I will.
okay, and she's like she does design, art design, direction, covers, and such. Worked in artists such as here, the Go-Go's, Gentle Giant again, REO Speedwagon. Interesting thing about Ginger, and I should know her name properly. She was actually the longtime manager for the Go-Go's.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so the longtime manager for the Go-Go's did that work, and actually had.
She's got the beat.
And actually won an award. Ha ha ha! Clever. She was nominated for a Grammy for Best Album Package for Vacation, which I would assume is a Go-Go's album.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so she was actually nominated for doing the whole entire thing for that.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, I was going to go audio quality. Similar to Bowie. The first track was a little bit dirty. Just needed to be cleaned up. You think it would have been called wet, it would have been clean. But no, it was well enough in the mastering department. Like it's
Yeah, I didn't notice it being
well mixed and balanced. Like there's no they're not cheaping out. It doesn't sound like an AM radio. It's good in terms of audio quality and sound.
Yeah.
The album, the vinyl's good. So it's sorry, I think I talked about it too much. I have nothing else left to talk about this album. Oh,
cost.
Go ahead.
Lowest condition $1.94. Average condition $3.99. Highest condition $6.45.
That's actually one I can see getting highest condition for.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Let's sell it right.
Yeah.
We'll sell it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because my rating is burn it with fire.
Yeah. Fuck this album.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a new title, a new category for me. It's like, this album. Fuck this album.
Fuck this album.
Yeah, this is a fire album in a dumpster. I have no. You know what? Nobody should be listening to this nonsense. Even for her, there's better stuff.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, aside from that Donna Summer song, this is just garbage. Recycled garbage.
Definitely.
Okay.
All right, Streisand out. The next one, the Powder Blues Band, Uncut. And it just says the Powder Blues, but when I did a search for it, it came up
The Powder Blues Band. Yeah, same in my travels. Well,
yeah, I thought maybe they had changed the name somewhere down the road, but no. Okay, it's a Canadian blues, pop, jazz band formed in 1978 in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, for those of you who don't know.
Wouldn't call them that.
They were a house band and were formed by two brothers from Chicago, weirdly enough. A Canadian band, two original members, founding members, American. After playing in clubs for 18 months, they released this album. It was self-financed, self-produced. It was their debut album. They released it in 1971, but was reissued in 1980. Reissued and re-released in 1980.
Like it was a label.
By RCA.
Yeah, it was,
RCA.
Yeah.
And they hit the road, did a tour. They released 12 studio albums altogether, the last one in 2004. And there are actually 4 versions of this album, apparently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, the track listing is Boppin' with the Blues, Hear That Guitar Ring, Just a Little, The Rock Chopper, Doing It Right, Buzzard Luck, What I've Been Drinking, Personal Manager, Sweet Little Girl, and Give Me Some Lovin'. Oh, no, Give Me Some Lovin' isn't on this one. But it was on the original.
It was on the original,
version.
yeah. It was dropped on this one, yeah.
So songs were written primarily by the band, and the album was produced by them as well.
Yeah, if you, I just want to go into a few of these. Like, if you're Canadian and you grew up, like, I'm almost 40, but so
What
if
did
you
you say, in the 70s?
70s, yeah. If you grew up in
Late 70s,
in
early
Canada,
80s.
This was CanCon here. Quite a few of these songs.
Yes.
I'll admit, I knew
they got played to death.
I knew some of these songs,
Yeah.
and that makes me sad a little bit. Okay. Is it me?
No.
Oh.
This album is definitely what a bar band from Vancouver would sound like after playing together for 18 months.
Well, it's funny.
Musicianship really tight.
Yeah, they're Yeah, of course, yeah.
But they're a bar band.
Yeah,
that's all they are.
There's nothing else to it. It's funny because I said that I didn't know any of the stuff you're writing down, because when we do our research, we do it separately. We're listening to the music and we're talking about it, but we're not sharing our information. I'm like, fuck, it's just like, you can go to any fucking band or bar around here and listen to this shit. Like, what the hell? And then Vic, you explained that it's a house band, and that's is exactly what it sounds like.
I'd be interested to know what club.
Nothing more, nothing less. And honestly, probably something like the Commodore or the Yale that they used to be.
No, the Yale. Oh yeah, because they were blues.
They were used to be.
So maybe the Yale or that other one, that has the burger joint.
The Roxy.
The Roxy.
I could see it being more like something. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I can see it being more like a Commodore, maybe Roxy or Yale. Like somewhere place you could drink and hang out. It's blues.
I think the Commodore, and I'll have to read up on it, but I think the Commodore at one time was local bands and not so much.
Yeah, big artists. Yeah,
like
internet. I think it's always been a mix.
Like the Commodore that we know.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, it was kind of interesting that we had mentioned that. Or I had said that because that's exactly what they know. No more, no less. Unless you're in the bar drinking or you know them. Like, honestly, I don't know why you would ever listen to this.
Yeah, I don't know how they squeezed out 12 albums.
12. That's the craziest part. 12.
Yeah.
And this one probably has, I would say, I don't know if you have it written down. It just seems like more of their known hits on it.
Yeah, the only two that I can bop in with the blues I know and Doing It Right.
Just a little. And what have I been drinking?
Oh yeah, okay. So there's 4 songs out of 9.
Yeah.
That were quite popular.
That's what I mean.
In
The
Canada,
fact that
anyways.
I know it is terrible. So, what's next?
Cost. Oh no.
No, me.
Sorry, you.
So okay.
I know. I really want to get through this one.
And we're plowing through it because like you said, we'll get into the musicianship. Okay, so anyways, like you mentioned, this was a reissue. I didn't realize when I was looking it up, but this is a reissue because the label had taken over, like the RCA had come in and redone it. So this
probably because it sold well.
Yeah.
So RCA is
like here's and get some money, make some commission off that for sure. 79, faded but in okay condition. Definitely back in Dad's collection, old collection. Lots.
Yeah, this is definitely
stains, but I mean, generally speaking, that's okay. There's no sleeve. The vinyl is open.
So the album is just shirt cocking it.
Yeah, it's just shirt cocking it. Yes, it's just top and no bottom. The vinyl's in pretty good condition, and it's no pops and scratches. So like I said, that's it. So cover art, Julian Davis, I guess, and the photo on the back is by Denise Grant. Now, here's, I've run into this problem before. For Julian, I cannot discern who. There's
so
a
many
million different Julian, like a lot. Old artists, new artists, young guys. There was one dude who kept popping up for Julian Davis. He was like 17-year-old politician or something. Like,
well, we know he didn't do it.
No, there's a moth in here. Did you see that? Oh, I got some spider friends you should meet, you son of a bitch. Okay, so couldn't find anything about Julian Davis. So Denise, same thing. I found a Denise Grant photography page. No, obviously it's somebody who's younger and it's more recent stuff. Lots of shitty, overproduced HDR shots. Like, once again, going to a photography studio page and someone's got their shit there and the photos are garbage. It's like... that's me as a photographer being depressed by other people's work. But once again, it's the same thing. There's too many. I can't discern. There's one from all over. They're all artists.
It's okay, baby.
I can't do it. There's too many.
It's okay.
So anyways.
You don't have to have all the answers all the time.
Well, good, 'cause I don't have any of them this time. So it strikes again where there's
you tried nothing and you're all out of
ideas. There's too much information, so I can't find the specific one. And that's fine too, because okay, whoop-de-doo, it's on black. Anybody could have done that. Basic stuff. And so Movie Line Arcade, that was the Roxy, right?
I don't know.
That's right beside the Roxy, so you could.
So there we go.
So, but other review like rating, dumpster. Yeah, I don't fucking care.
So I'm dumpster too.
You're dumpster too, yeah. Yeah, I've heard enough of this stuff.
I have no use for this album. No use for it.
No,
like
and
just no use.
No, it'll never be played again, and I've heard of the songs enough.
If I want to hear a bar band, I'll go to a bar. I won't put on an album.
Yeah, it won't be these guys. One thing I want to say before we wrap this up, which is now, is that in the description, it was called rock, pop, and jazz. Is not at all.
It's more blues. It really is.
It's blues rock.
Yeah.
Straight up, like there's no real jazz elements. It's bar rock blues.
Oh, and just cost. The cost really surprises me.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the lowest condition, $2.89. Average condition, $4.26. But in the mint condition, $15.02.
Man, that's pretty
like
good.
We've had better albums worth less than that.
Less, yeah. It has to come down to a lot of times, I think, just availability, rarity kind of thing. So all right, there we go. Episode 19 down. Like, subscribe.
Hit that bell if you want to know when we're posting.
We're on the tweeters now.
We're on Twitter, yes.
Yeah, we're on the tweeters, so you hit us up there, and I'm looking at the list for next week, and it's an interesting.
There's actually 2 good ones for next
interesting
week.
Heady.
Or for the next episode.
Yeah,
episode 20.
It's gonna be a fairly long one, I think, too, just because
of the 2 bands that it really is.
At least the double album and that one there is pretty long as well. So, but hey, all right, later.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.